I'm Nicholas Baxter. I was just sworn in as district attorney 30 minutes ago, to be exact.
So you previously appeared in a few episodes of Criminal Intent, and then you directed an episode of Law and Order. So how does that experience compare to starring as the new DA?
It's quite different. I mean, I felt like first of all, it was years ago that I did both of those things. The world, particularly of Law and Order, the Mothership show, hasn't changed that much in a kind of beautiful way. There was an approach to the storytelling that Dick Wolf, created many years ago that has sustained itself and stayed fresh. And then, I guess, in 2006 was when I directed this show with the great Sam Waterston and a wonderful cast then. And stepping into it now, it's kind of beautiful because I'm trying to fill Sam's shoes, which is an impossible task. But it felt like coming back to something that still had a freshness to it and an attention to detail and an amazing cast and all of the things that Law & Order's always had.
Well, let's get into the Nick Baxter of it all because he seems very aggressive. Talk to me about his new role and his mindset going into this new gig.
Well, he's stepping in, it's his administration. He's got to figure out and build a team that makes sense to him. People don't know whether they're going to have a job or not. So that creates an immediate tension, and he has to learn the job. Nick Baxter is not a neophyte. He's someone who's very experienced, but he has a very, very different style than McCoy. He's in a certain sense more modern. He's more politically sensitive, I would say, whereas McCoy was very much the law is everything, and the law tells us exactly what the decision needs to be. I think that Nicholas Baxter is a guy who really takes in broader social implications of every decision. I have a different vibe than Sam, and Baxter has a different vibe than McCoy, and I think it puts everyone on edge.
Yeah, who do you think is most on edge? I would imagine Marone and Price because they work directly under him, but also what's his relationship with the detectives as well?
Well, certainly Nolan Price, who was acting DA after McCoy left, and he's my sort of the next in line. Similarly, to maybe a lesser degree, Maroon. The cops, it's like the detectives. My very first scene, my introduction is I just sort of happened to walk into a crime scene, and they are pretty startled by that. So I think people are like, who is this guy?
I was just walking uptown, I saw the swirling lights, and I got excited. Thought I popped my head inside. I haven't been to a crime scene in over 30 years.
We'll see how that develops. I don't know.
I do want to get into Baxter making McCoy's office his own and the thought that went into that and the implications of that, how that impacts those around him.
Look, he's coming into a space where Jack McCoy was an icon, as Sam Waterston was an icon, and it hasn't been touched for 30 some years, So how does one make one's mark, And so part of it is your work style, your leadership style, the way that you communicate to your team, but also in an office like this, everything sends a message. The design of his office has got to be an expression of him and his leadership style and a new approach, So it's not going to be anything outrageous, There's no disco balls.
I mean,
evident. However, it will be, he wants it to be more modern.
And speaking of modern, I know you touched on him being in an active crime scene. What other ways this season do you think he's going to sort of challenge the images of what we have with DAs? What new things is he bringing in? What is he touching on, changing, shifting?
He has a broader lens in his decision-making than just a purist about the law. He really takes in broader social implications, how this case might impact other cases. Are there bigger, do we want to make a deal on this case in order to catch a bigger fish down the line? There are things that are not just what is the best thing for this case. Baxter has genuine interests and social concerns that he's not afraid to speak out about. There's a wrongful convictions review board in his office, which is an amazing thing in the prosecutor's office, which historically, when people are wrongfully convicted, it's very, DA's office do not like to admit that they are at fault. Well, Baxter is a guy who believes that that's a mistake and that we need to review our mistakes. So he's quite progressive, I think, in that way. But he's not afraid to, in that way, to sort of delve into things that might be considered political. And I find that interesting. And especially, for me, I'm very involved with the Innocence Project, which is an organization that deals in exactly that issue. I'm on the board of that organization, which is the premier, criminal justice reform organization in the country. So I happen to be, something of interest to me. But there will be many things like that, and I like that about him.